Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 5-0 podcast. Today, we are here with JP. JP is a former Marine and Scout sniper. JP spent many years serving our country and our city of Chicago as a police officer. With a passion for the veteran community, JP is dedicated to changing the culture and empowering veterans and officers nationwide. So, for our listeners who don't already know who you are, which I'm sure they do because you have thousands and thousands of followers, but give everyone a quick bio about yourself, and then we will peel back the layers about everything we discussed and more.
Love it. I'm here for it. I do want to start off by saying thank you so much for having me on here. I appreciate it. I've been following you for a while, and your story has really inspired me. So I just wanted to tell you that the fact that you were able to put yourself out there, be vulnerable, and just share so much, it inspired me to do a lot of the things that I am doing. So you are a mentor to me without even knowing it. So just I want to say thank you for that. Now,
You,
a little bit
you
about
made my
me.
day.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. A little bit about me. So I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18. I had very little, if any, direction in life. I went to five different high schools. I was involved in gangs. I got arrested. I made every mistake that I could when I was young. Um, and everything kind of came to a halt when I met a teacher who told me like if I don't do something with my life, I'm not gonna have a life. And I really didn't have one. So I ended up joining the Marine Corps, and for the first time ever, I found my people. I found a place that I felt like I belonged. I found just so much of what I was craving for in my life without even knowing that I was craving it. And because of that, because it was such a big experience, because it was such a just monumental piece of my life, it was very formative for me. So I really learned a lot about myself, about life, about the things that I held to be true to me and near and dear to me in the military. And I did 5 years in the Marine Corps. I was a scout sniper. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2010. I was an infantryman during Afghanistan. Uh, Came back, did the indoc, went to scout snipers, and I ended up getting out of the military in 2013. Moved back to Chicago, which is where I'm from. And I knew that what I wanted to do next was I wanted to work for the Chicago Police Department. I actually tried to do the police test, the one that they had in 2010, while I was deployed in Afghanistan. Like I had just missed the cutoff time, but I ended up coming back home. I did the test immediately, applied for every department that was out there just because I wanted to, see what I could do. And I went to work for the police department. And in 2014, that's when I started with the police department and did that for 10 years. During those 10 years, so much happened, so much transpired. And we could talk about that because I love talking about it. But I'll put it to you this way. I also made every mistake in the book as a veteran, as an adult. Honestly, even as a cop, because there's things that we do as police officers that really don't really benefit us as much as we think they do. And I think that's one of the things that I'm excited to talk about today because I haven't really talked about it too much. And it's not that I've held back, it's just that for the longest, the mindset is like, well, I can't share this with the world because the world is going to judge me, and then people at work will judge me. And I'm really starting to come into my own in that space, the same way that I've come into my own with talking about veteran stuff. But I think there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about regarding the lifestyle that we have as cops, or for me as a former cop, that when we talk about them, it's not about this is what you're doing wrong. It's about, okay, is this really something that's benefiting you, or is there a better way to kind of live that life? And I love all your videos. I love that you're willing to talk about these things, and I think you're making a very huge impact in the police world, especially for women officers, because I think that's one of the things that isn't talked about enough. So that's kind of my story. I left the department in November, and now I'm doing coaching full time online. I have a podcast, and I make videos, and yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. We're going to ask you a lot of questions about everything. And I am just as excited as you to talk about being a police officer since we were both worked for Chicago police. So we probably have a lot of similar shared experiences. But you did kind of talk a little bit about how you made a lot of mistakes growing up and, like your upbringing that brought you to get to the Marines. But a question I like to ask everyone that comes onto my podcast was, how was your family life and growing up? Tell us about you, like as a kid. And it's interesting because all of us who get into policing or get into the military, some of us have our reasons and some of us, it just falls on our lap. Some of us live these chaotic lifestyles and some of us have, these amazing upbringings. But I'm curious to learn about yours.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great question because it's something that we don't talk about enough. And I don't think we realize just how important those years are because I think that when you when you grow up in a life that is so full of all the things that you need, I think it's less likely for you to go out into the world and to venture and to try and find something that gives your life a little bit of meaning. And it's not that my life didn't have meaning, it's just that the circumstances and the life that I lived, I was always searching for that. I was always searching for something that made me feel accepted or welcomed or honestly just included. So I had undiagnosed ADHD as a child, and I didn't even realize I had it until I was 24 because when I was in the military, it really wasn't showing its face because the military does a great job of keeping you systematic, organized, routine, eating, working out, all the stuff that you should be doing if you do have
So
that.
busy. Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up, my parents both came here from Mexico when they were in their 20s. They met here, they got married, and along came me. And they had the mindset, which is it's generational for sure. And I love my parents because one of the reasons why I have this kind of entrepreneurial spirit is because of my parents. They both have a cleaning company that they started when they were, younger, when I was a little baby. And they had the mindset. They still have the mindset. It's definitely transformed and evolved. But it was that the harder you work, the better life that you will have. So my mom was diagnosed with a liver issue when I was very young, and she ended up having a liver transplant. So she ended up staying at home with us a lot more. And then my dad would work. He would drive an hour, to and from the steel factory that he was working, providing us the best life that he could. And I think the mindset was very much on materials of if he can work harder, he can get us the pool for the backyard. If he works more hours, he can get us that bike that we want. If he works more time and he's not at home all the time, he can buy us the bigger house. And that was, I think, something that they definitely did. But I just always craved belonging. I craved to feel like I was a part of something. And I never really had that, to be honest with you. I don't really have a lot of memories from my childhood of being part of something that really fed my soul. And what the hell do you know when you're a kid? You don't know what it means to feed your soul. You don't know what it means to have someone that truly is instrumental in your life. When you grow up, you look back and you're like, yeah, that made sense. But I got involved in games. When I was 15, my parents moved us out to the suburbs of Chicago for a little bit, and I rebelled. I had a girlfriend in Cicero, which is where I actually like lived. And I rebelled. I made all the mistakes that I could make. I got into a lot of trouble. I didn't belong to any groups, any sports, nothing. So I was very much always trying to fit in, either trying to be the class clown or trying to hang out with people that would accept me or liked me or whatever. And it was very, very hard. And it was definitely one of the biggest reasons why I joined the military. So yeah, my childhood was, I wouldn't say chaotic. I would just say that it was very unorganized. And I think I was always craving some sort of belonging and structure.
And that makes a lot of sense because like you said, the military, um, being a police officer, that gives you that sense of belonging. Everyone says, it's a brotherhood and it's like the biggest fraternity in the city. And I could see how that and honestly it makes me reflect on my life. Like I was in a lot of sports and I was in a lot of groups and things like that. But if I wasn't, I could see how, you want that sense of belonging, you want that team, you want people around you who have your back, and you want people around you who kind of feel the same, have the same goals and passions and dreams. But it sounds like you had really hardworking parents, and that definitely translates, into who you are today. If you didn't, you probably wouldn't be doing the million things that you are doing. So it's cool to see, how you grow up and what it makes you as a person. Um, so you joined the military when you were 18, right? Okay. Why did you
Yes.
choose the Marines? Was there a certain reason or just fell on your lap?
Yeah. So I want to touch on something though that you said. I think that
Yeah.
when you are involved in a lot of things like that in sports and you grow up in a life of understanding that being part of something is important, I think that that also is a reason why you value the fact that you want to belong to something. So I think it's either or, right? Either you don't have it and you're like, this is something I really want, or you have it and you understand the value
You
behind
love
it.
it.
And that's, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why you're very much willing to buy into that mentality because it is a buy-in. Like if you don't, if you ever try anything in your life, and this is, I believe this for everything. Like if you don't buy into it and you don't really give it your 100%, you're not going to really succeed, right? So you really have to understand that it is a buy-in. It is you believing in it and really giving it your best effort. So to touch on the Marine Corps. So I had a cousin that was in the Army. He deployed to Iraq multiple times. And I thought, well, if things don't work out for me, I had a girlfriend at the time and I was literally living just day by day. So I went to the Army and I met with them. And then the Marine Corps, their uniform, their attitude, the fact that they felt like they were better than everybody else. And it's definitely a thing of like, all right, if I wanted to join the branch that I think if you put a poll out there, people will tell you that the Marines are the most confident, which can translate to cocky for sure. But for me, it was just the fact that they didn't feel like they needed me. They weren't chasing me. They came off as the type of people that, well, if this is something that you want to do, then this is something that you have to do. We're not going to go out there and try and chase you. And then also a teacher in high school who I talked about a lot. I'm still in touch with him. He was my criminal justice teacher in my senior year of high school, and he was huge in my life because he's the one that told me like if you don't do something with your life, like you're not going to have a life. And he was in the Marines, and he became a cop after he got out. And I think that was the first adult that I had in my life of like, all right, I can do something different than just work in a factory my entire life, which at that point, that's what I had seen my dad do for his entire life. And then they were doing the business as well. But I just couldn't see myself as owning my own business. I didn't believe in myself at all. I really didn't. I thought, well, I will be part of something and I'll do this or that. And then when I learned a little bit more about the Marine Corps, that's when I decided to join the Marines. And I chose infantry because I wanted to be in the fight. I wanted to um, truly like not just be a part of something, but I wanted to be in the action. And I also know that I wanted to be a scout sniper. So like there's two things that I wanted to do when I finally like decided like, all right, I want more from life. I want to do these two things. And if I do these two things, then I'll be happy. And that's such a lie, right? Like I've already done those two things. I wanted to work as a undercover cop, which is something I did with Chicago, and I wanted to be a scout sniper in the military. And I did those two things. And like I'm still now I want more. So that was the reason why I chose the Marine Corps.
That's awesome. I love hearing it. I do wish like I would have done the military, but it just never was something that I believed that I could do. Now looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have done it. But thank you for your service and like beyond, thank you. And I work with a lot of other police officers that have served in the military. Actually, my partner is a Marine, and like just the way he works and his pride and how he operates, I can see that he had that past, and it definitely translates over into being a police officer. When you went to the Marines, when you deployed, did you get any pushback from like your family? How did they feel about you doing this? Were they proud? Were they scared? How did they feel?
Yeah, there was a lot of pushback initially, but I also think that this was in a period of my life where I was just getting in so much trouble. I was getting arrested. I got expelled from two different high schools. I think that they knew that I needed some sort of order in my life. I think that the biggest fear or the biggest apprehension that my parents had when I told them that I was joining the Marine Corps, I think it mostly came from the fact that they felt like they failed. And I really have worked, and they get that that wasn't the case. And I tell my parents every day, like the reason why I am so successful and the reason why I'm willing to start over several times in my life and go through all these changes and the reason why I feel so brave about like taking on new things in my life is because of the way that you guys raised me. But I think for them, it was more along the lines of they know that I need something. I'm not going down the right path. And I think they just felt more along the lines of like, well, we weren't able to do it for you. And now you're going to go off and join the military. And they were worried. This was in 2007 when I was, doing my paperwork to enlist. The war was still going. It was still raging. Afghanistan was picking up a lot more. And I think we all knew that if I joined, especially because of the MOS, the job that I chose, I think we all knew that I would end up in Afghanistan, which was my goal. Like that was something that I was very adamant about, that I didn't want to just be on the sidelines. I wanted to be in the fight. And there was definitely a lot of apprehension behind it, and they felt the same way for every decision I've ever made when I got out and I told them like I want to, join the police department. It was the same apprehension. Um, the same thing happened when I told my mom and dad that, hey, I'm going to start a online fitness business and I'm going to quit my job that I've been doing for the past, 8 years at the time. That gives me a pension and gives my kids health insurance and, gives me all the overtime that I want and, has been very good to me. My parents had the same apprehension. But I'll tell you this. I think that the fact that every area of my life that I've decided to venture on, I've created success in one way, shape, or form. I think that they understand that they can't sway me in the other direction. I think that they understand that supporting me is the best route for all of us, really.
And you were first generation, right? Pretty much.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
was first one born here. Yeah.
yeah. So for them, everything's so new too, and it's interesting that you said when you enlisted that they felt like they failed. I wonder if that's I wonder if that's something a lot of families feel. It's interesting for you to say that because to me, someone who didn't serve, I would never think that in a million years. I would think that's so honorable, so amazing.
Yeah.
But when you say it like that, um, do you think it's because they felt like, oh, he couldn't find his way or couldn't find anything else to do, so he's just going to go into the military? Or do you think like other parents have felt that way? It's just so interesting to hear you say that. Um, because in my mind, as someone out of it, I think, oh,
Yeah.
I'm so proud. But I could see when you say it like that, how maybe it could
Mhm.
feel like that.
Yeah, I think that it definitely had something to do with my older cousin. He was in the army.
Mm,
He was injured. He actually got blown up a few times. He um
God.
went through a lot. He was in Fallujah, which one of the biggest fights that Iraq had. And it was hard for my parents to see that because my dad was very much like a father figure for him, right? So like seeing him go through the things that he went through and the things that he was currently going through, dealing with divorce, dealing with a lot of trauma, PTSD. I think that they were worried about that happening to me, but I also think that it was more along the lines of like they were hoping for college. They were hoping for more for me. They wanted something that would open up doors for me. And my parents are very big on education because when you come to this country, you want opportunities for yourself, but I think that deep down inside, you know that the biggest reason why you came here was because you want to have opportunities for your children as they get older and they have more in life because of things that they didn't have. So my parents were all about education, and I think the fact that I was making a decision to go in kind of an opposite direction of that to them it was very much the unknown. The fact that the only information that they had on what it was to be in the military was my cousin
Was your
who
cousin?
had
Yeah.
multiple injuries, who was dealing with a lot of trauma, who wasn't in the best of places at the time. So they were worried that that's something that would happen to me. And obviously like the war was raging on at the time and there's obviously the fear of not coming home. At that point on the news all the time you would hear about the KIAs and all the soldiers and Marines that weren't coming home.
God bless your parents. They come to America and then you go serve the country. And they're like, we took you here for to go to college and be safe, and now you're gonna go. Oh my gosh. So after a long service with the Marines, serving our country, you decide to go into policing. So was that transition for you like natural? Was it just like a natural, easy transition, or was it difficult?
It was easier than I thought it would be because so one of the things I talk about a lot in my videos is that a lot of people think that I'm like anti-military, and I'm not. I am all about truly dissecting your service and talking about, all right, what was beneficial from you from the military and what do you need to leave behind? What do you need to translate? Because even your leadership has to change, right? And I think that the fact that I went in almost immediately, so I got out in 2013. I went to work for an executive protection company for a little bit, doing like celebrity security. It wasn't for me. Um, Came back to Chicago, and I was working just different jobs here and there. And I was just waiting for CPD. I knew that I was going to get the phone call. I knew that it's something I wanted. I knew that like that was the next step for me. And I would say that it was an easy transition, but I think the reason why it was easy at the moment was because I had not changed or addressed all of my shortcomings. So the things that served me really well in the military kept serving me really well in the police department. And I wouldn't change a thing, right? So like the fact that I was of the mindset that you have to be the first one there, last one to leave, you have to volunteer for everything. Um, you have to research everything and treat it like a mission. It served me really well in the police department. I was the assistant class commander. I chose the west side of Chicago. I chose the 15th district, and I volunteered for Summer Mobile the first year that it was there, and I was able to go there with my buddies, and we got into a lot of fun. We got guns, and then I went to work on TAC right away at my 2 year mark. Um, right off the bat, I was writing search warrants. I was so meticulous with it. I remember my very first search warrant. It was a negative one, and I was so upset about it that I made sure that I never made the mistake ever again. And I would write about three or four every month, and then eventually it was three or four a week. And what was cool about it was that I was on a team of people that it felt like it was the guys that I had deployed with. It. We were like we are a family. We were tight.
Right,
We
right.
we knew each other's wives. We knew each other's kids. We knew everything, and we all went through so much stuff. Divorce. Um, Unfortunately, that team, like a lot of stuff happened, right? Like we when we lost one guy to alcohol. Um, a lot of stuff happened, but it felt like a family. It felt like I was still in, and my sergeant at the time was a Marine as well, and it really kept me in the mindset of like all the things that I did in the military, the mindset that I have. It served me really well until it didn't, right? Until it didn't, because I started realizing that because I was giving everything to the police department, it cost me my first marriage. And that's a marriage that honestly probably should have never happened, but it's just what I thought I had to do. I'm like, I get out. All right, I'm dating this girl. I move in with her. All right, I'm supposed to get engaged. Okay, I'm engaged. I'm supposed to spend all this money on a expensive ass wedding. Okay, we did that. I'm supposed to work harder than ever before. I'm supposed to do these things. And I thought these are things that I have to do because I didn't know any other way. I didn't know that there was another way. And the attitude that I had that would serve me really well, and that's the reason why I did really well on my team, and that's the reason why I got to all these places that I went to. Um, it ended up really hurting me in the long run, where I pushed everyone away. If you weren't on my team, I didn't care about you. If you were on the watch, I took that anger and the hate that we got from the watch, which I was in the wrong, not them, but of like a badge of honor of like, well, they just hate us because they ain't us. Um, and I just realized that I was a very toxic human being, and I don't say that lightly. I wouldn't change a thing about it because it all got me to where I'm at right now. But I was very much of the mindset of this is our team, nobody else matters. We look after each other, and I knew that I could call them at 3 in the morning. I knew that we were going to be like working together for years and years and years. And when things started to change and people started to move to different teams and people went to different places and things started to change, I felt very alone. And I went through my first divorce, and a lot of it had to do because I gave everything that I had to the police department. And do you mind if I talk about like the last 4 years of my time?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So the last like 4 years of my police department career were honestly the most tumultuous. It was the most changes, and I ended up working as like the area intelligence officer for Area 4. I ended up making it to home and square, and I was with most of my team. Like most of us actually stayed together, and I was still working with my partner that I had been working with since 2014. And we had the same sergeant, and we were still like it was the squad. It was the guys that I worked with. And when I made it to home and square, I had already gone through my first divorce, but I was still not healing myself. I was still very much with the mindset of I need to find someone that's like me. And I got into another relationship that I should not have got into. And that ended up in a divorce as well. That actually just finalized last September. But all at the same time, um, because of politics, because of just being reactive as a department that sometimes every department is. They ended up disbanding our unit. They say they didn't disband it, but they got rid of everybody that had just got to the unit. And I was doing undercover work. I was there for like 8 months, and then within a matter of a weekend, they got rid of all of us. And they gave us the option to go back to our districts or to go to mass transit. And almost my entire team went to mass transit. And it was such a huge blow for me because I gave everything to this department, and I have no ill will towards CPD. I love them. I pray for them. I actually just saw my partner today. He was here today with me for a little bit. And it went from me feeling like I had purpose, like I was making a change, an impact, like I was doing work that actually like mattered, to arresting people for not paying their fare on the train. And it was just very different, and it took a lot out of me, and I felt like I was in a very dark, deep place. So I made a decision. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I know that I can do something else because I have this delusional optimism, this delusional self-belief in myself, that I'm like, all right, I'm going to start a business, and within 2 years I'm going to quit my job at my 10-year mark. Like that was the mindset that I have. And at first there was so much pushback from people. At first, people thought that it was just something that I was doing for fun, something that, oh, he'll grow out of that idea. But I didn't. And I started making videos. I started, I got my certifications. I started just building my business. And like overnight, I just got my LLC. I came up with a name. I started doing it. And eventually, I did hire a business coach because I believe in investing in myself. All the money that I've ever paid for my business coach, it's not money to him, it's money into myself. And I truly went all in. Like every minute that I had that I wasn't at work, I was working on my business. And I had a son at the time already. And my marriage was already in a bad place, and it fell apart at the same time of me launching my business. And I had to make a decision. I'm like, do I want to like try and fight one fight right now, or do I think that I can take on two battles? And I did. I did because I realized that one of the battles was a battle that was really draining me, and I felt like I was losing that fight. My marriage was falling apart, going through a divorce. Um, I had the police called on me several times by her. Thankfully, I had everything on video, and this is something that I've
Oh
talked
my
about
gosh.
before, and it's hard to talk about. But
Yeah.
I had video of the incidents, and thankfully like nothing bad happened to me. But guess what? Like people at work started thinking that I was that problem child. Like Perez and his shit again. They supported me, and I loved them, and they gave me a lot of support and a lot of like help. But it was definitely it took a toll on me. And I knew that I was losing that fight. I knew that the end result at the end of the day, it wasn't going to be like me winning that fight. It was going to be no matter what, I was going to lose that fight. Like my marriage, my family that I was building, everything that I thought was going to happen, it wasn't going to happen anymore. And I knew that that fight would eventually lead to loss, no matter how you look at it. There's no winning a divorce. There's just no winning. But I also knew that there was another fight that I could fight that would actually make me feel better, that I would win, that I would be able to excel at, that I would be able to make a difference, not just in my life, but in the life of other people. And that's why I leaned into the business. That's why I made the videos that people would call cringe, that people would talk shit about behind my back, that they would laugh about in the locker room and give me shit for. And I would hear it. I would hear it from people. I would see it on social media, um, especially people that knew me as Juan the cop. This is the guy that like being the police is his identity, and that was a problem. It's nothing should ever be your identity. You're a person that is dynamic. All of us are. So then I kept doing it. I kept doing it, and I told myself that all right, in November I'm going to leave this job no matter what. And I ended up bringing people on my team. I hired two of my cousins to do some of the work for me. I kept growing the business. I kept going to the events that my business coach had. And, come September, the divorce was finalized. And in November, I put my paperwork in. And it
Wow.
was
I have
it
the
was a hard
chills.
thing to
Like it
do.
literally all planned out. Like it all you manifested it really. I mean, you
Yeah.
made it happen.
Yeah. And I really
Wow.
believe that like manifesting stuff and having a vision of stuff, like your brain can't tell the difference between something that's not real and something that's real when you envision it. Like if you see yourself doing something, your brain really believes that that's going to happen. And you just have to, I believe that like being in alignment with what you want and then making sure that all the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis are aimed in that direction, like you will get there. All it takes is all you got. Like it's already inside of you. It's just doing the things on a daily basis, the small little things that are going to get you closer and closer and closer. So like that's why like that I operate from that every day. Like I jump in my ice barrel every morning. Why? Because like it's hard. I don't want to do it, but guess what? I know that I will have a better day because of that. I know that I will show up in a better way because of that. And yeah, I manifested it. I knew that like, all right, the divorce will be finalized in September. I put my paperwork in, and then of course, every single and this happens to everybody. When you are about to level up, when you are about to go to that next
Oh,
level,
let's hear it. Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
It's like when we were kids when we were playing a video game, and like you have to fight the boss at the end of each level. Like you are going to face so much pressure, so much
So
adversity.
much hardship. Yes.
Yeah,
So
so
much.
much hardship. And a lot of people, unfortunately, take this as a sign of like, this isn't right for me. I can't do this. This is just a sign saying that I'm not ready. And so many people told me this. So many people told me like, well, this is happening because you're not ready. So basically what happened is November 1st, I made a video saying like, I just put my paperwork in. I'm leaving the job in 24 days and this is it. And that video went viral. It got, a lot of views or whatever. But the day after, my TikTok account got banned. So my main source of income, basically, my
Why?
main
Do you know
source.
why? Like, did it have your
Yeah,
weapon in it or something and they flagged
I
it or?
I don't know why it happened.
Interesting.
There was signs. So in the comments on the video that I made about leaving the department, I started seeing all these comments about, oh, the same thing happened to me, and this is the person that got my account unbanned, and I wasn't banned at the time, and I'm like, I don't know
Interesting.
what these people are talking about. A day later, my account gets banned. So literally the number one source of income for me, because
Right.
to me, I got all my clients at the time from TikTok. It
Right.
was banned. I couldn't message anyone. No one could message me. I could still make videos, but there was no communication piece like that. I couldn't do it.
Wow.
And a lot of people said like, oh, well, this is just a sign. Like you gotta wait. You gotta play it safe. Like, this is like, you gotta slow down. And I just took it as a sign of like, this is the adversity that I'm going to face, and I still have to do it. So I still followed through. Um, I did everything I could to mitigate it. We opened up a second account. We doubled down on, Instagram, and I kept doing it. I kept doing it. I kept my promise to myself. And I also told myself that when I left the department, I wanted to make sure that I had like a certain VA percentage rating because then that would give me that cushion. And I wasn't there yet. And I told myself, that's okay. I'm still going to follow through with this. I'm going to be all right. And I've recently started sharing with this just because I felt like, well, you don't have to share everything with the world, but this is one thing I want to share with people, just because I want people to understand that like even when you have that adversity and you think like I'm still going to push through this, there will be signs that tell you like you have to play it smart. It doesn't mean that you just go all out and you don't set yourself up for success. But when I actually quit my job, I only had like $400 in my bank account. And I knew, I'm like, okay, this means that I'm not going to spend a dollar on anything else. I'm not going to buy myself anything. The kids' insurance was figured out because, my ex-wife was able to put them on her insurance. But that meant like, that's it. No going out, no spending money, no nothing extra. Like you need to spend every minute that you have on your business. And I knew it. I knew that like, all right, November I quit. I knew that December and January and February were the most important months, and it worked. We were able to, you know, get to numbers that we've never gotten before. I got the 100% rating finally in February, but we've actually doubled in size from November until now. Instagram has actually more than doubled. We went from 2,000 followers to like 18,000 followers on Instagram just because I kept doing the thing. I kept posting the video. I kept showing up every day because it's not just about the reps. Like delayed gratification and, understanding that progressive overload, it's not just about the gym. It applies everywhere in life. And I knew that it's something that I had to wait for the fruition to happen, but I had to keep doing it because the work that you're doing now, it's not going to pay off until June or July. So the work that I was doing in September, in August of last year, it paid off in January and February, you know?
Wow. It's like I can relate to so much that you're saying. It's funny that the video that goes viral is like the one of you quitting. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people I've actually had a girl here on my podcast who quit and she went viral too. It's like, why are those the videos that are going viral? It's because so many people can relate to that, or so many people are looking at it like, wow, if they can do it, like I can do it. And again, like you're saying, you loved your job, you loved what you did, and you have nothing bad to say. But if you feel like you are stuck, or if you feel like you have this dream, you can do it, but you might have to make really, really big sacrifices. And a lot of us are really married to that pension. Like we get that job and we got to stay there for 25 years, or like you said, got to make it 10 years, got to get something out of it, or else I feel like a failure, or I did this all for nothing. And when I quit, I remember I had someone videotape me literally click the button to resign, and I was screaming. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. It was like by far the hardest, scariest decision I've ever made in my life. And I had sleepless nights for weeks, weeks leading up to that day, because all I could ever think about was, what about my pension? What about this? I'm leaving a good job. I'm leaving a stable income. I'm leaving, stability. But, ever since, like, same with you, like, I kept making the videos. I kept doing, and like you said, I've gotten a lot of pushback, a lot of hate. Um, how did you deal with getting like hate on your videos, or did people judge you for leaving your career to take on this full time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even your own
Honestly,
people, right? It's
yeah.
crazy. It's like even the people you trust, even the people you work with, people you've been good to are sometimes the biggest like shit talkers, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's a reflection of them usually.
Yeah.
It's like they're too maybe insecure, scared to take the leap that you are about to make, and it's a little bit maybe of an inner jealousy thing, that you're able to do this and they're not. But how did you feel about that? I'm curious to know.
So I agree with you. I think that it's insecurities in themselves. I think people will cheer you on up until the point where they failed. So like if people start something or they do something, they'll always have that reservation in the back of their mind of like, oh, well, that's awesome you're doing that. That's great. But, just know that eventually, like, it's not going to go where you want it because they weren't able to do it. And they'll always put this idea on you of like, well, he's able to do it because of X, Y, or Z, or they're lucky, or well, they just have a better situation than I do. And none of those things are true, right? I was going through a divorce. I was living out of one bedroom in my own house. I couldn't do a lot of things in my personal life just because I had to wait for this to be over, right? And I knew that because I was going through this really hard time, I had to find something in my life that would give me purpose and reason to be able to do something different. So like, and I think the people that are closest to us, that I guess we could say that they're worried about us. I think they say the things that they say, and they think that it comes from love. They think that it comes from like they wanna make sure that like you'll be okay. But it's just from the unknown. They don't have all the information that you have. They don't know that you're staying up till 2 in the morning doing these videos no matter what. They don't know that you are thinking about the future the way that you are. And when they don't have this information, they're gonna make a snap judgment based on what they know. And what they know is like, well, I have this steady pension, we have this steady job, we have, a steady life, and you're going to remove that from your life. And it is scary for sure, right? But I think some of it is like worry for you, but it comes off as hate. It comes off as that they don't think you're going to succeed. And yeah, sometimes it's the closest people to us. And that there's definitely people that were like, really, like, and that happened to me. One of the closest people that I had in my life, I heard that, this person was saying like, well, he's making a huge mistake, like, he's going to be back before you know it, like he just doesn't understand what he's doing. And it was hard for me to hear that, but I'll tell you this, I think that those are the biggest fighters that I have under me, of like, I know that I'm not going back. And I'm going to share this with you because this is kind of funny. So I made a video on April Fools, and it wasn't my intention to basically I saw my business coach, he made a video. It was an April Fool's joke. And he said something outrageous at the end. He says, hey guys, I just want to tell you guys, I'm being honest. I've actually been making these videos. And it was something silly, whatever. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it too. So I made a little video. And in the video, I said, this isn't working out. It looks like I'm going to have to go back into law enforcement. And, Chicago won't take me back because I have suspensions. Oh, and it's funny. The day I got my check in the mail, my very last paycheck from CPD, I got another letter in the mail for a 10-day suspension.
Stop it.
Yeah, I swear. So
They do
they told me
that.
that if I wanted to fight it, that like the FOP called me. They said you should fight this because if you do want to come back, we know you're not here anymore. But if you do want to come back, like you have to fight this because if you don't, you'll never come back. And at that moment, I'm like, I know I'm not gonna fight it because I don't want to come back. I wanna burn that boat. Like it's not burning bridges, it's burning boats because I knew that I didn't want to have a safety net. I didn't want to have like any idea in my
Right,
mind of like this isn't gonna
right.
work out. Plan Bs are
Wow.
wonderful, but Plan B has to be so close to Plan A that it has to be along the same route. Like if you have a backup plan, you're not going to believe in yourself all the way to go all the way in, like 1000% in. So I made a video talking about like it looks like I'm gonna have to go back into law enforcement. I have to apply for different departments, and I thought it was okay because in my mind, there's no way that I would fail. So I thought this is outrageous. This could never happen. I was wrong. I got a lot of messages and phone calls from people saying, "Hey, listen, we're sorry that it didn't work out. If you want, we can try and find something for you here." A
Oh,
bunch of different
wow.
like people, like chiefs of police from different departments, reached out to
Oh
me.
my God.
Yeah,
Oh
and I'm
my
like,
God.
I know. I'm like, thank you so much, but it was just an April Fool's joke. I apologize. I obviously I went too far with it, but it was just all day of like people, and I don't want to tell
Silent
myself.
supporters. A
Yeah,
lot of
I
silent
see it as
supporters.
support, instead of thinking like people were happy that I failed. But there was people that reached out to me like, yeah, we knew this would happen, and I don't reply to that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because it
Wow.
doesn't affect me. If it makes them feel better to send a message so they can feel better about it,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. It was a few of those. It wasn't too many, but it was mostly support. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I a lot of similarities there with me. Um, so I have this question for you. So we just dove in about social media. So you have a lot of followers on social media. You share a lot. You're very open. You even share about fatherhood. You share about, you know, leaving your career, PTSD, trauma, working on yourself, et cetera, et cetera. You really are opening the door for veterans and really humanizing the parts that a lot of people are afraid to talk about. How does social media, you kind of touched on this, but how does social media help your mission? How have you been able to connect with people who really have needed your help? And what has been your favorite, if you could pick one, favorite success story?
So I think social media is just like everything else, a tool. And a lot of people, they use it for the wrong reasons. They use it for a distraction. They use it for something to pull them out of their world because they need that distraction in the moment. But I think it's just a tool. I think that if used the right way, it's a very powerful tool. So we live in a day and age of being able to put something out there that can reach thousands or millions of people. And I don't think we understand the value behind that. So one of the interesting things that's been happening is that when I make a lot of these videos that I've been making, the people that comment, the people that reach out sometimes are people that are still in the military. They're active duty. And it's something that I never thought about when I started making videos. I started making videos because I wanted to be able to talk about fitness, nutrition, and that was my initial mindset of it. And then it started to evolve, and it's grown and grown and grown. And that's why I launched the podcast because I wanted to have a larger platform to be able to talk a little bit more about what my thoughts are. And one of the things that's been happening is people reach out to me and people comment on saying like I'm about to deal with this or I'm scared to get out of the military because of this. And the end state, the goal of like the social media, like my mission statement is like I want to make success accessible to every veteran in society. Like after service, like I want people to be able to see success in society as not following a plan, not having rules, not feeling like you have to go into law enforcement or firefighter or X, Y, or Z. Of like whatever you want to do, you can do. Like you have to be able to break the mold. Because honestly, I think that we follow this mold. And this is what happened to me. I'm like, all right, I get out. I was infantry. I guess the only thing I can do is law enforcement. And I'm happy I did that. But I'm also happy that I believed in myself enough to understand, like, guess what? I can go through a divorce and I can be okay. I can decide to share about my problems. I can go to the VA. Because I think that one of the things that happens that really hurts veterans is that we come out and we only see certain things. We hear bad stuff about the VA. We hear about how messed up society is. We hear about like, oh, civilians don't understand us. And as much as I love the veteran community, there is a very negative mindset of I get out for the first 4 years, I do whatever I want, I grow my beard out, I kind of just live life the way I've been living it. And then that after that 4 year mark, that's when you start to realize like, all right, maybe all the problems I have, they're self-created. And I think until you take ownership over that, and I think until you like truly tell yourself, like, the common denominator here is me. The thing that keeps happening over and over again, the thing that is consistent with that scenario is me. And I took ownership over that. I realized like every mistake that I've made, every situation that I find myself in, it's because of the actions that I've taken before. And honestly, when you take ownership over where you are at, it's nobody else's fault. It's not society. It's not the VA. It's not the government. It's no one else's fault. It's on your actions. That means that tomorrow, next month, next year can be different if you start taking different actions right here, right now, today. So that's like the thing that I talk about over and over and over again. And honestly, some of the best success stories in my program, like people that have joined the program, it's not like people like Jeremiah losing 70 pounds and actually being able to become a police officer. It's the fact that he was able to like change his entire life's outcome because he was finally able to lose the weight and get the position that he never thought he would be able to get. But it was mostly because of the confidence that he was able to build in himself again, right? It's people like Conroy who join my program and yeah, they lose 20 pounds and they put on muscle and wonderful. That confidence is built because confidence comes from a lot of different places. One of them, in my opinion, is having so much evidence behind you that says that you did what you were going to do and you followed through with it. But it was the fact that he lost his job and the same day he was able to find another better job because of the confidence that he built in himself. Like those stories to me mean more than just someone losing, a couple of pounds or inches off their waist. It's about how do you transform the rest of your life? How does the rest of your life change trajectories? Because success in one area of your life, the byproduct of that is success in every area of your life. Your relationships improve. You start setting boundaries. You learn to say no to the things that really don't align with you. You don't have to fill your life with dopamine by drinking every weekend or by, shit talking people because that's the people that you're hanging out with of like, all right, well, we just complain about life. Your kid's life changes. So like that's the goal that I'm aiming towards. And initially I wasn't going to coach veterans, but I started doing it because of all the veteran suicide that I personally felt because of it being really close friends of mine. Um, and that was the hardest part, right? So like seeing the kids growing up without fathers and mothers, that's what I really wanted to like change more than anything else.
Yeah, and you with all of that, you started the VetRise Academy. So you took everything, you're changing these lives. And I like how you said like because a lot of your stuff has, fitness, weight loss, stuff like that, but it's more than that. So this VetRise Academy, was this your first like thought and then you did the social media, or did VetRise Academy come from all the connections and influence you made from social media? And then who is a good fit for the VetRise Academy, and what do you offer in this academy?
I like this question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me this way. So to
What
answer the
came first, the
question,
chicken or the
yeah,
egg?
it wasn't created until the social media took off the way it did. So initially, it was called Ultimate Journey Fitness, and it was going to be just about fitness, nutrition, and habits, really. Because for me, habits are like your systems, and that's the baseline of how you operate. So like everything has a system for me. Everything, like everything's on my calendar. Um, but I started realizing that I wanted to turn it into something bigger than what it was because of the fact that we were getting a lot of people in the program that needed more than just the fitness and nutrition. Like fitness is the foundation because I want you to start having wins as soon as you join. But we do 3 coaching calls a week where we do Mindset Mondays, convos with JP on Wednesdays, and Thriving Thursdays. And I'll tell you, like for example, today we're going to be talking about how to handle toxic leadership without losing yourself. It's not about fitness, it's not about nutrition, but it's about something that a lot of veterans deal with because they might be in a place where they feel like they need more, they deserve more, X, Y, or Z. And we focus on fitness, nutrition as the baseline, the foundation of what we do. But the real work happens when you start changing your mindset, when you start changing your belief system, when you start changing your habits, your routines, the things that give you value in life, because then the fitness and nutrition will follow. It will get better with time. So it honestly started a lot more after everything took off. And then the evolution happened. I changed the name of it and I started focusing heavily on veterans. However, one of the things that we don't do is I'm not going to sit here and glorify your past. I don't need to hear about everything you did in the military. Not that it doesn't matter, but what I care about more than anything else is what you are doing now and what you want to do next. So we focus a lot on like where you are right now, like what do we have to deal with right now? What changes do we have to make sure that tomorrow, next year, next 10 years of your life are a lot better. So we bring people in and we focus on that much more, on the mindset, on the habits. We did combos with JP last night, and the things that came up were like, how do I deal with a breakup? How do I deal with people at work saying that we might be closing down soon? And the answer is like, don't catastrophize those things and understand like why you felt like you needed someone to love you before you started loving yourself, right? So like a lot of it is self-experience. And I'm a nerd when it comes to these things. I love to read. I love to find out new things. And 95% of the stuff that I teach and I talk about, it's from experience, from like me going through these things and finding out what works best to get me out of that dark hole. So like I love pressure. I love like tumultuous times because if I can get myself out of that place, I have a blueprint that I can teach someone, I can give to someone of how they can get out of that place as well. So like I never shy away from challenges, from opportunities. I look at everything as an opportunity. Like it's not overwhelm. It's only overwhelm if like you don't believe in yourself enough to find a way through it. And like, who is it for specifically? It's for anyone that wants more from life. Like, we don't just have veterans. We have a lot of people in our program who aren't veterans. And the reason why it resonates
That
with
was the
them,
question. Yeah.
yeah,
So it could be anyone who's just
anyone.
looking for some good
A-
direction and
mhm.
confidence and lifestyle
Absolutely.
changes. Is there a lot of police officers in your program too?
Yeah, we do have a lot of police officers. We have some firefighters. We have people from
Awesome.
every branch. We have a lot of teachers, a lot of nurses. Um, one of the big
We're all
things that I
pretty
teach.
similar where we have those jobs
Yeah.
where we're in that mundane, almost like alternate reality. Like even teachers, like where we're stuck to this job And change is hard, I'm sure, when you're a teacher or you're a nurse or you're a cop. Like you said, you're in this unit and then it gets dismantled. I'm sure if a teacher loses their job, it's like, my life's over. What am I going to do? I got to find another school in the same subject. And I mean, we're all very similar in the sense that we have these like bubbles that we're living in that we think that we have to stay in. And that's our, our whole universe, basically. That's our identity. And you could do so much more outside of that.
Yeah, it's a lot to do with that. It's understanding that like you've been doing something for a while and you
Yeah.
thought it was your identity, and it's not. You are a dynamic human being. There's a lot to you, right? That it's more. You're not just a firefighter or the cop. You're a father, you're a son, you're a daughter, you're a friend. You are a human being. You're a civilian. You're a veteran. You are a lot. And like when you stop using the one thing to prop on that kind of like, pedestal of like this is the most important part of me, you get to realize that the most important part of you is all of it. And when you really do that, that's when you can start finding out who you are, what's important to you, what's not important to you, right? Because we buy into this kind of culture and we adopt all the beliefs initially because it does need to be that way initially. But then you have to dissect it and you have to understand, all right, is this truly what aligns with me? Or can I remove one piece of this, add something in here, and then just start doing things differently for your own way, like the way that you want to live life. There's no rules. You get to do what you want in life.
And then you started a podcast as well, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
So did that come after the birth of, obviously your social media, people want to hear you. They want to learn from you. So for like my listeners, how can they tune into your podcast or join your academy? How would they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I started the podcast on a kind of a whim. So I had been
Same.
on a yeah, I overnight. I had been on a bunch of podcasts and I was a guest on a podcast and I bared my soul. I told my story, and this person, um, they just had a bad logistical system, and they didn't release the episode, and they were like, "Well, yeah, we're gonna probably release it sometime next year." And I was like, You're kidding me?" So I'm like, "Why am I
Next
giving
year.
away?" Yeah, and I'm like, "Why am I doing this?" And I'm like, "Why don't I just start my own podcast?" And it had been on my list for a long time of like one day I want to start it, but you always feel like, well, when I'm ready, then I'll do it. And I'm like, I'm never gonna be ready. So I just literally did it one day right there in my kitchen, in my parents' kitchen, actually. I just recorded my first episode and I kept recording episodes and it kept growing and growing and growing. And it's doing really well right now. It's the place that I can tell the longer story, the piece of thing that like I want to be able to tell a little bit more about. And I love getting messages from people telling me that they listen to the entire like 4 episodes on a drive. It's called the VetRise Podcast. It's on all platforms. If people want to find me, they can find me on all platforms under JP, the veteran coach. And the application link is in my bio. You can also shoot me a message and I will reply. Might take me a little bit because I get a lot of messages, but I will reply and we can have a conversation and we can see if you're a good fit and if, VetRise is a good fit for you as well.
And I just want you to know that what you're doing is so important because, like I said, I work with a lot of veterans and they come to me a lot to talk because I'm an open book and I'm, not judging. And I think they could tell like I'm vulnerable too. And I do think that there's places that they need to go, like other men to look at like them who've experienced what they've experienced to like maybe it's hard for them to go to a therapist or seek help from those sources. So to have you as a resource, a guy that looks just like them, been through what they've been through, is really important because I I know them. I know a lot of guys just like you, and they're in law enforcement. And like you said, they kind of went from the one thing to the other thing, and they've just been running since they were 18 years old. And it's like it's okay to slow down and like have other goals and dreams and not just work so hard all the time. What are your plans for the future and what can we expect from you? You have a podcast, you have this academy, you have your social media, you have so much going on, and I know and you're a father. So what can we expect from you in the future? What should we look out for?
Thank you for asking that. So I made my vision board in January. I update it
I
every
need to
year.
do that. I need to do that.
Yeah, I update it every year. So something I changed this year is that I don't just update it and take stuff off. I look at my vision board and I look at like what I've actually accomplished from it, and I move it to a different board. So I have a board of like all the things that actually came true from that vision board. And I have a board that I
Okay, I
update
love
with
that.
stuff. Yeah, it's something I just started doing, like the update of like from here to like it's been done. And one of the photos that I have on there is me on stage in front of hundreds of people talking. So like this year, I actually will be on a couple of stages. In May, I'll be talking at an event. I don't know if I can give you the details on it yet, but it's going to be in Chicago and it's going to be in around the middle of May. And there's supposed to be 300 people there. So like, I'm really excited about that. In August, we're going to be doing our very first VetRise Summit for all the clients in the program. We're going to get them out to Chicago and do a 3-day event. And the things that I'm going to be doing, like I know this is going to happen, is I see myself speaking on stages in front of hundreds of people one day. Like that's the goal. The Vet Rise is going to keep growing. Eventually, I want to make sure that the service never gets sacrificed. So that's one thing that I never want to work myself out of. But I know that as we grow, as we evolve, there will be other pieces that need to be, tended to. So like we're going to keep growing the academy. That's never been something that I'm going to personally leave behind. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm working on that I'm building. I don't know. I don't know. Just keep freaking going, keep going, keep going, like not slowing down.
And I can see it in your face. Like you're happy and you're proud. And I I'm so proud of you. Like it's so amazing to hear. It's like this whole session has been like, I think you're giving me a free session of your academy. I'm like, I'm feeling so motivated. I'm feeling so there's so many things that I want to do and I want to accomplish. And you've done it all. And it's
That's my
really
question for you
inspiring to
now.
me. Yeah.
Where where
That's
where can we see you in the
oh
near future?
God.
What's something that you're working on? What's something
I'm
that
kind
you
of
got
in
cooking?
that stage, where you talked about where you kind of feel like when you're feel like everything is hitting the ground. It's kind of like where your life changes and where you level up. So I think I'm in that season right now, to be honest with you.
Love that.
Um, but I'm okay with it. I could be like, oh, my life sucks and so much shit is going down. But I feel like it's a rebirth and an opportunity for me to kind of like start over and you know, make whatever needs to be made of myself. I think I need to put it all down, like you said, like in a vision board or on paper because it's all in my head. um, but yeah, like you said, just growing what I have right now is obviously really important, and to just be present, like with myself too, because the only problem that I have is just with everything that's going on, like you, so much going on. Sometimes I forget like to take care of myself and just sounds so stupid, but just having a day where I just watch TV and do nothing, like those days to me are so important and just I don't get many of them. People are like, what do you they probably say the same to you, but like, do you ever sleep? Like, do you ever stop? And no, I really don't. So I got to make sure I take time for myself too. So maybe that, little self-care would be nice. But you know, we're running. Me and you we're just going. So
Yeah.
yeah. I'm really excited that I had you on here. I do see those things for you, like definitely speaking to big crowds and making a huge difference. And I can't wait to watch you. You got to send me the info in May. If it's open to the public, I would love to come.
I'd love
Um,
that
yeah, I would love to support you.
for
And
sure.
um, yeah, I love everything that you're doing. You guys go give him a follow, message him if you want more information. And if you want to tap into his podcast, it's streaming on all platforms. I'll obviously put all the info with this episode. But again, just be safe and thank you for all that you do. You are an incredible example of what can be done and what is possible if you just put your mind to it.
Thank you.
And
I feel the same
being
way about you.
vulnerable is not weak. Being vulnerable is the strongest thing that you could do, and especially as a man. So I appreciate you putting yourself out there. It's
Thank you.
easier for someone maybe like me to do it, but someone like you who's served our country and our communities, it's harder for someone like you to put yourself out there. And I know that. And I really appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And honestly, like I think what you're doing is so brave and so out there as well. Like keep doing it. And I think it's awesome that you're doing something like this because you you're impacting more people than you know. And I think you have to remind
So
yourself of that. So like this is
yeah.
my encouragement to all the people that listen to your episode right now to go and send you a message. Send Haley a message and tell
Ah,
tell her how she
yeah.
has impacted you. Because I think
Yeah.
we all need
I'm
to hear it once
lucky.
in a while.
Yeah, no, I'm really lucky. With every bad, I'm sure it was same with you, with every bad hater comes five supporters and
Yes.
it makes it all worth it. And, eventually the work will, speak for itself, hopefully. So now I'm gonna go have to make a video because you inspired me. No
Good.
quitting today. No quitting for me today.
Good.
So thank you so much for being here. Stay in touch. And yeah, you guys go give him a follow. If you're not already following him, you probably already are. But if you're not, go give him a follow and
Thank you.
we'll stay in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you again.